Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Wayne Butler, alcoholic.
Wayne!
I want to thank Teresa and the committee for inviting Tina and I here this weekend. I absolutely love AA. If you're new to Alcoholics Anonymous, welcome. I'm going to ask you not to judge AA according to my presentation. I want to thank the committee for being willing to turn the lights back on. When you turn them lights off, I went into freak mode. You don't want my depressive talk. And that's what you would have got in the dark. And besides that, I want to see you so I can judge you back. I don't like being at a disadvantage. I have a lot of friends in this room. If you're new, I want you to know that I don't speak for AA. You probably already know that because your sponsor already told you that. I don't speak for AA. I don't represent AA. But if you're new, you probably don't know that. And I'll do the best I can to present what I'm supposed to present tonight. And I'm told that the format is what I used to be like as a drinker, what happened to me to not be a drinker, and what I'm like today as a sober alcoholic non-drinker. I don't ever want to forget that because my sobriety date is November 8th, 1977. I love to drink. If I could get away with it tonight, I probably would. I hope you don't think that's AA blasphemy. But something about me and Budweiser, we had a love affair that courts couldn't even intervene on. And I personally don't see nothing wrong with drunk driving if they just get everybody else off the road. I'd be fine. Widen the roads a little bit. Who cares? Me and Budweiser had a thing. Me and Budweiser had such a thing that I put Budweiser before 2 wives. I put Budweiser before 5 kids. I put Budweiser before my own best interest. Nothing out there did nothing to me that I didn't compound with my own thinking and mismanagement. I would love to get into the population of present psychological thinking and blame, maybe even my disease, blame it perhaps. Unfortunately, I got a sponsor before they came out with that theory who said if there is a disease, it looks a lot like you, sport. I want you to know that I take responsibility for my life. A lot of things happened to me as a kid I'm not going to go into tonight because this is not Victims Anonymous. And a lot of things did happen to me that really distorted my perception of life. But that makes me a victim, and it's my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous, victims don't stay sober. So it's incumbent upon me to start taking responsibility for my actions. And by the way, I want you newcomers to know I did not do that gladly. And sometimes I was even willing. Most often, grudgingly. But it got done. There's a lot of laughter in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a lot of fun in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to make sure I don't get them in the wrong order. I'm the kind of guy that wants to go to recreation first, and then I'll work. I'm the one who wants dessert before I'll eat, and then I never eat. I'm the guy that's got everything backwards, and I don't understand that. I could blame my family for that, I suppose, in the society we have today. I grew up in an alcoholic home. I don't want to tell you that story. I'm here to tell mine. I'll suffice it to say that my father was an acknowledged, admitted alcoholic. My mother would not join any movement because she figured that her problem died when my dad died. I've got an older brother who's sober 27 years. I'm glad I have 3 years on him. I have an older sister that's as neurotic as the day is long, and she takes Valium and it works for her. And she drinks socially. I don't understand. She'll on that bottle of Valium, it says don't drink or operate motor vehicles while you're taking this medication. And she doesn't. It's just beyond me. I think I would view that as a challenge. Like, really? Well, let's see. I love Budweiser. Did I mention that? I tell you, I grew up in that alcoholic home, and I want to make sure I don't blame them, because granted, some things happen, but it's my reaction to it that counts. And my reactions to the world have always been just a little over the top. I've always perceived the world oddly, if you will. I remember looking at my family thinking, boy, there's something wrong with you, Butler. You don't look like them people. I mean, they were country western. I was rock and roll, you know what I mean? I looked at them and I thought, what, Patsy Cline or Hank who? It's like, give me the Beatles, all right? And I didn't like them. I just did it because my mom didn't. There's something odd about me. Whatever my mom did, I wanted to do the opposite of. I had no clue what I wanted. And today they would call me developmentally disabled. Back then they called it retarded. Growing up in an alcoholic home, not being able to make sense out of myself, always feeling different. Always feeling at odds with people. Always looking at you and wondering why I got the short end of the stick. Nobody taught that to me. I conjured that up in the confines of my own mind. It's almost like I set it in motion, and then I would have someone to blame for it in my mind. I did that. And I remember in the big book where it talks about crushed by a self-imposed crisis. And I was like a walking crisis. And I remember I was in school, and I was in 8th grade, and they came out with this IQ test. And I was a bit backwards and odd and different, and I didn't understand. I felt goofy. I was uncoordinated. I was left-handed, and where I come from, that made you odd if you were left-handed. As a matter of fact, this will make you tear up. It does me. 2nd and 3rd grade, I sat with my left hand tied behind my back all through school. They decided to convert me to right-handed. Yeah, it was bad. And it hurt my feeling. And I found out when I was doing my 5th step, my sponsor said, "You are really a knucklehead. You know that? You lived on a farm, didn't you?" I said, "Well, we did." He says, "Are you aware that all farm machinery is geared right-handed?" So what? I knew where he was going. I cut him off at the pass. He's trying to make sense to an irrational person. In 8th grade, I took an IQ test. I think 130 to 150 is brilliant, and over 150 is genius, and I scored a 57. That's the truth. I lied and said 69 because I thought 57 was a little low. And I didn't cheat. It has its advantages. You know what? I found out too late. I was already sober when I found out I could have moved to Texas, where you can commit murder in Texas, and if you have an IQ below 70, they don't execute you because you're too stupid. And I got put in that special class. Now, this talk is not about problems other than alcoholism. As you see as we go along, it all goes hand in hand. It's all the same problem for this alcoholic, but I didn't know it because I hadn't drank yet, and it's awful hard to know you have alcoholism when you haven't drank yet. And I hadn't drank yet, but I needed one, let me tell you. I needed one coming out of the chute. You know, if they'd had a bottle there in the birth room, I'd have had it in my mouth. Matter of fact, my mom had to kick me off her chest. I wasn't going anywhere. I was stuck to that bottle, I'll tell you. Haven't moved too far away from it either. Did I say that, Ben? I got put in a group home. Now, if you have a child that's organically challenged, I don't mean no disrespect. I'm just telling you my story. Obviously, I wasn't organically challenged, but I got diagnosed severely mentally retarded, and I got put in a group home. And I'm going to tell you something. That group home was 10 times better than that insanity I was living in. I didn't know that. That did not make me alcoholic. It just put a definite spin on my personality. I knew there was something wrong with me. I want to tell you how I felt about myself. No one did this to me. I came up with this. I remember looking at my mirror at home, somewhere between the age of 8 and 9, thinking to myself, Butler, it's too bad, pal. It's going to be a long life. And it's going to be lonely because you are butt ugly, pal. I felt like a human turd with eyeballs floating around the punch bowl called life. And you were all out there looking in going like this. How'd that get in here? Get it out of here. But I swear before God, if you put Budweiser in that bowl, I was the best swimmer in there. I had an interesting relationship with alcohol that I could not explain until I met you. And you shared with me your dilemma, and I went, oh my God, that's it. I never even heard of. Did I mention I was on the psych ward 17 times? I liked it there, by God. I was a court commitment twice. My own family court committed me twice. Once in Illinois and once in Iowa. 15 times I was a self-sign-in. Now I'm going to tell you what. In case you have a little slippy poo. Given the way I drank and the way I acted and the way I looked and the way I smelled and the way I talked, out on the street I couldn't get a date to save my life. But you put me in a co-ed psych ward. I'm a pretty charming fella. And I heard the Virgin Mary's on the unit, and I'm looking for her. They had her in restraints. I said, never caught her on the loose. I tried. There was something wrong with me that we couldn't figure out. I mean, I've been in therapy since I was 2. Everybody's known there's something wrong with me. And thank God, we had a guy named Tom in my school. You know how they let them other students take care of lessers than, and they get brownie points for it from the teacher? You know, around here we call it getting your sponsor coffee. That's a sponsor laughing, I can tell. Tom was a kid who he would take us special kids on field trips. They had us on the short bus, and we did. And I'll tell you what we did. We sat around the school for a couple hours in the morning, and every afternoon we went to Moline miniature golf putt-putt. And that's what we did 5 days a week for 4 years. I played miniature putt. I can't drive with a hang, but I can putt, let me tell you. And that's what I majored in school. And when I was a senior, Tom was a senior, and he'd been taking us kids all through school. You know, I had no idea what was inside booze. I never was going to drink that brown whiskey because I saw my dad drink brown whiskey, and I saw what happened. I'm not touching that stuff. It scared me to death. But I didn't see nothing about beer causing any... I didn't correlate them as alcohol. And I didn't know that alcohol is alcohol is alcohol is alcohol. I didn't know that that's why my dad guzzled vanilla extract. I didn't know. I'd see my dad on Saturday morning. What you got there, Dad? Nothing. Shut up. Got it. I'd read the bottle. Vanilla extract. Isn't that something? Never had it. That could be my yet. Tom would take us on field trips, and Tom took care of me. And I remember, this might make you tear up too. 3 wrestlers took 3 of us special kids. And on a Friday night, we didn't get out of school quick enough. You've been to that school. Some of you bullies are here. I've already spotted you, so don't run away. I have no resentment. They locked us, each one of us, in a hall locker. And they didn't find us till Monday morning. Now, those other 2 kids came out organic the same way they went in. I came out with something I didn't know I had. A resentment. Do you know I hung on to that resentment all the way till I got back from my second tour of duty in Southeast Asia? And then I exacted my revenge. I don't hang on too long. Let me tell you what happened in between. Tom took me to the senior dance. I was the only one in the special class that got to go to the senior dance. I went to the senior dance. I'm standing up against the wall Now, I've been reclused, if you will, in this special home. I've been protected. And Tom protected me from the bullies. Because after they locked me in that locker, Tom went and beat the bejeebers out of them. And Tom became my best friend in the world. He protected me from them. If Tom would have said to me, here, drink this battery acid, I'd have drank it in a second because of what he did. But I'm standing up against the wall, and I'll never forget it as though it happened yesterday. Tom walked up to me on the dance. He's coming up from across the dance floor, and he had his coat on, and he had something tucked in here. And I was wondering what it was. He got up on me, and he pulled a long-necked brown bottle of Budweiser out and said, here, kid, drink this. It'll make you feel better. I drank it only because Tom asked me to. I drank it down and said, Tom, that tastes terrible. I want a Pepsi-Cola. Tom said, you know, that's okay, kid. Have another. You'll get used to it. Now, here's what Tom meant. Tom is still my friend to this very day. He's only been drunk by his word and by my vision of his life one time. What he meant by I would get used to it is what happened to him. Apparently, the first time he drank a little bit too much too quick. It did what it was supposed to do. It impaired his judgment and his coordination and his ability to locate himself, and he peed in his dresser. Then he almost went crazy trying to flush it. And he said, I ain't never doing that again, and this day Tom has not. Now, Tom knows me. Tom knows I'm sober over 30 years. He doesn't understand why I do this AA thingy. He hopes I keep doing it, though. He thinks you're a de-retarding program is what he thinks you are. That's what Tom meant when he said I would get used to it. What I'm going to tell you is Tom's experience and my experience at 4.5 Budweisers is different. Somewhere between 4 and 5 Budweisers, I got so good looking I couldn't stand it. I felt like I could drive the short bus. I had no idea that alcohol had engaged me below the vision that I have. It engaged me in a spot that nothing else can engage me except for alcohol. Somewhere, somehow, alcohol got down somewhere where nothing else can and altered my perception of myself. And I know alcohol is not supposed to do that. I know what alcohol is biochemically indicated to do. And it isn't that. I remember looking out on the dance floor and I eyeballed me a blue-eyed blonde dancing with some loser. I forgot I was retarded. I walked right up to her and asked her to dance, and by God, I guess she felt sorry for the retarded kid because she said yes. And we danced the rest of the night, and we found out later that night sex meant 2 people. I didn't know that. They weren't teaching us special kids sex ed. They didn't even want to hint it to us. They didn't want us reproducing. She ruined my sex life. I thought I was quite the expert. I'd been having sex since I was 13. She complicated the entire process. Then I went back to the retarded class. A few weeks later, I got called into the principal's office, and the teacher walked me down there. I'll never forget it. This is the first time I drank. My mom and dad are there. Her mom and dad is there. I'm 17 years old. Found out she was a sophomore at the senior dance. She's 16. And she's pregnant. And I'm 17. And they informed me that's called statutory rape. And I remember saying, even if you're retarded? Can you imagine the day we got married? How happy her mom was. It was only 8 months later I left for Vietnam. And her mom was really pleased about that. And she said, I really hope you don't come back. Good luck. That's what my mother-in-law said. I showed her, by God. And And that was the first time I drank. It's all downhill from there. I didn't know from that drink to the last drink I took that I hope is my last drink. I had no idea that unconsciously, down here where no human being can go, I was pursuing the effect produced that day that made me feel superior to myself. I had no idea that alcohol had this unusual ability to empower me to think things that aren't possible for me to carry out, see things that aren't there, but I believe, and alter my entire perception of my own reality. So why would I just say no to alcohol? You're going to have to give me a really good substitute and a case for it, or I'm not going to stop drinking. And if you're new, I want you to know if you have a hard time stopping drinking, I understand. Because if alcohol did for you what it did for me, I fought surrender as hard as I possibly could, including in AA. And it isn't just a case of I don't want to stop drinking. I wish it was that easy. Wouldn't it be nice if stopping drinking was as easy as stopping drinking? I wouldn't be here. I'd have been here, well, I'd have 35 years instead of 30. Because I came to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in November of 1972. I didn't know I was coming here. I have a second wife now. I didn't even know I got married, I got to tell you the truth. I was in a 5-day blackout, and apparently she worked at a Maid-Rite Sloppy Joe burger joint, and apparently she made me a good sandwich. Because in a 5-day blackout, we drove to Palmyra, Missouri, where you can marry your puppy if you got enough time. No disrespect if you're from Missouri. I want to tell you about that. We're driving along, right? Now, here's the one thing that I've held on to forever. You know, we all had that one thing we can say we never did that we can judge everybody else with and hold ourselves self-righteously above all. Mine was I'd never cheated on a woman. That was mine. If you ever cheated, you're scum. And I could commit terrible things, but I would always say this, but I never. And I'm driving along, and have you ever come out of a blackout doing a drunk test? You really don't know where you are. It's a scary thing. Well, I'm driving my car, and all of a sudden I become aware of my surroundings. And I notice there's a woman in my passenger seat, and I don't know who she is. I'm afraid to ask. That's kind of hard to introduce yourself when you're driving and they're in your car. And then I notice she's wearing a wedding ring. Uh-oh. Butler, what are you doing with a married woman in your car? My mind is doing the Rubik's Cube click. I mean, the colors are flying around so fast I look like a rainbow on 90. I look at her and she sees that look. You know how you guys are. She saw that look in my face and she says, honey. Now, I haven't noticed I'm wearing a ring yet. I'm just driving. Because I was so startled by honey, I said, what do you mean, honey? Who are you? She hit me in the arm. She said, don't play like that. That's not funny. I said, no, really. Who are you? She hit me again. I said, don't hit me again. She says, baby, that's no way to talk to me. We only been married 2 days. I said, what? So we figured it must be God's will. That's why when I sponsor someone, I don't ask just for their plan. I ask what they think God's will is for them, too. Because we're going to try to defeat that at any second. Because we stayed married for 12 years and dang near killed each other a day at a time. Let me tell you something. Thank God for AA, because I was sober 5 years, and I was letting the guy I sponsor live with me. And the book says we let him stay for a couple of days, give him a couch commitment, but, you know, who needs to listen to the book? I let him stay for 6 months, and one night I came home about 1 in the morning from an AA dance that I went to, and my wife decided to stay home, and so did my sponsor. He said he's going to do some step work. Should have been my clue. I come walking in my house, and I heard this noise emanating from my bedroom, and I wasn't in it. My head said, don't go in there as I opened the door. Call your sponsor as I went in the room. And there's my wife with my sponsee getting on with the business of living. And it occurred to me that when he told me he wanted what I had, by God, he meant it. And as I stood there deciding which one to shoot first, I realized he was willing to go to any lengths to get it. We got divorced. That was 25 years ago. Every now and then I miss my sponsee. November 1972, I've really gotten with the business of living. I'm now sleeping in a dumpster behind Larry's Oasis. It's a BFI. And I heard a knock on my dumpster lid. I was home. I'm wondering who's out there. Now, I want you to envision me before I go any further. At that point in time, I had just gotten out of another institution. I weighed 146 pounds. I didn't have any teeth. My mouth was rotted. Funny thing, ignore your teeth. They will go away. Therefore, I'm a projectile puker. I'm wondering who's out there. Nobody's visiting me. I can't get a date to come home with me. And I opened the lid to the dumpster. And there's my dad staring at me. Now, the last time I saw my dad was when he went to court to get a court order, restraining order against me so that I can't come within a mile of my own mother because of something I did while I was drinking. And the last time I saw that man, he told me if I came near my mother, he would take my life, and I knew he meant it. And here he's standing there looking down in the dumpster where I'm now curled up into the corner. And it's amazing the pride of an alcoholic. No matter how low I am, I can look down on somebody. And he looks down there at me and he says, Wayne, he had went off and joined this thing called A&A. Unbeknownst to me, he was doing a 12-step call on me. He was trying one time. And he looked down there at me and he said, Wayne, do you want to come home? And I looked around my little room. And I said, no thanks, Dad, I'm doing fine. And you know what? I was. Some of you understand that here. I was doing fine. Leave me alone. Don't bother me and I won't bother you. That was my attitude. Leave me alone. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm the one living in the dumpster. Get away from me. Now, why are you leaving? After my dad left, I bailed out of that dumpster and I started that walk that every man and woman alcoholic in this room has started. It may have not been from a dumpster. It may have been from that Cadillac you parked on the front porch. It may be laying down, face down in your 3-inch carpet. It may be hiding in a closet drinking. It may be in the bathroom taking the bottle out of the toilet tank. Bottom is relative to the mind of the individual, not the location of the body, I've discovered. But my bottom, I didn't know, began right there. I jumped out of that dumpster and I began that walk. And I got down below 34th Street, Moline, Illinois, and I came across a restaurant called Harvey's Restaurant. Been by it many times. I looked inside and I eyeballed this 800-year-old woman, slowly wiping down the coffee bar. I sized her up, knew I could work her for a freebie, went in, put on my best pathetic look as though I had to add to it. You know how we are. Got in there, sat down at the coffee bar, and all of a sudden, she just broke into a smile like she was glad to see me. Comes over and gives me a hot cup of water, a glass of water, and some tomato ketchup, some saltine crackers, and said, here, knock yourself out. And then she said, how you doing, sweetie? What can I do for you? And I started going into my sob story because I want something to eat. So I start trying to get the sympathy. You know how we are. I'm on the take. I'm a taker. And I'm working her. So I start telling her a story that I didn't even want to tell my sponsor. I have no problem telling a waitress that I've never met before just to get a burger, the worst of my secrets, yet I'm hesitant to put them on my 4th step. Isn't that something? I told her about the alcoholic home. I told her about the 3 men that raped me. I told her about the retarded group home. I told her about Vietnam. And when I didn't think it was bad enough, I made stuff up. Tears were rolling down her face. I even started crying. Moved me too. You know why I found out she was crying? She was in a program called Al-Anon. They should wear a badge at work. That should be a code in the Alcoholic on the Street book. Watch out for the Al-Anon. The reason she was crying is because her husband Harvey, who I think was an instrument in saving my life, Harvey was having a hard time staying sober. And she knew if she could take me hostage, keep me there, that Harvey has somebody to work with and he might stay sober. And that's exactly what she did. She talked me into staying. And mopping the floors. And I hung out there for 3-4 days, sleeping in the car out in the parking lot. And then here comes Harvey, a little guy. Oh, my God. He made me feel good about myself. He was so ugly. That was my opinion. Harvey comes up to me, and he gives me the bum's handshake. And there's something in his hand. It's a coin. And he says, I'm Harvey. I heard you need some help, kid. Because that's kid. Kid. I hate kid. I'm not your kid. That ain't what I said. That's what I thought. Because I want what he's got in his hand. And I know if you talk back to him, they might revoke it. So he starts telling me about when I opened my hand up, there was a brass coin. It wasn't spendable. I noticed that right away. On one side, it had these 2 stupid A's. On this other side, some stupid prayer. God grant me something. I scanned it, said nothing about money, food, shelter, or Pell Mell tailor-made cigarettes. So I wasn't really interested. And then Harvey says to me, you take this coin tomorrow down to 410 16th Street about noontime. There's going to be some friends of mine there. You tell them Harvey sent you. They're going to help you. Now, what I heard was they'll give you money. Now, thank God I had a distorted perception at that split second. Because he said, you're going to go to AA and quit drinking. I said, I'm not that hungry, sport. You know how they are. He tricked me. He told me that when I got to the building, there'd be a cellarway. It's in the basement, because where I'm from, it's always in the basement. No churches would let us in at that time. It was in the basement of a condemned building. Harvey told me that there'd be a light bulb hanging on a cord. He said, if that light was on, go in. They're expecting you. So I got down there the next day about noontime, just like he told me, expecting a freebie. I wasn't going to AA. I just wanted something to eat. I wanted a cigarette, and I wanted to take advantage of somebody, because that's what I do. I'm an exploiter. I didn't know that till I met you guys and did an inventory. I thought I was just working the system. It's sort of like a badge of honor. I'm a worker among workers, if you know what I mean. I got there the next day about noontime, found the building, looked down the stairway, and by God, the cellar windows were painted black. I didn't know that was anonymity until I got sober. And there was a little corner cut out, and there was a light bulb hanging on a cord. Harvey said, if that light's on, go in, they're expecting you. And I looked at that light bulb, and it was like, not on, it was flickering on and off. And it's like, what's that mean? And I started going like this. I'm out on the street following the light. It's like alcohol. You know what they call that now? Restless head syndrome, give you a pill. The light wouldn't stop. Harvey didn't give me a contingency plan. He didn't say it was a clue to go in anyway. And I went out of my mind as though I had far to go. I went to Larry's Oasis, moosed a few Budweisers, got oiled up, talked to a couple of guys at the bar, found out one of them knew about that building because I told him about how rude they were to me. And he said, oh, I know about those people. You go back there. He talked to me about this AA thing. I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, you go back there. You get what you got coming. You get what you got coming. Go make them give it to you. You know, I had no idea he was yanking my chain. Should have known he was drinking rum and coke. So I go back there about 8 o'clock. Isn't the time frame very interesting? I get there about 8 o'clock and I look for the light bulb and then it occurs to me, I don't care. I don't care if it's on or gone. I'm going in. I'm going in because I got it coming. Because we all got it coming, don't we? We all want what we got coming. I heard tell I got exactly what I had coming. I went charging through that basement doorway, standing all 6'3" of me. Failed to notice the doorway is 5'10". I ran smack head on into that door header, full steam ahead. It lifted me off of my feet, and I landed flat on my back, and I slid into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. About 6 feet inside the door is this round table with 6 or 7 old fools who must have been talking about death and dying because they were old. I slid right between 2 of them, and this one old piece of work gets up out of his chair, looks over me and goes just like this. That must have been a metaphor. And then he growled at me. I'm landing flat on the deck. I have now hurt my head. He looks at me and he says, slide right in here, you big dummy. We got a wrench to fit every nut that comes in the door, and by the looks of you, it better be an adjustable wrench. He says, my name's Barney. I'm an alcoholic. Oh, I'm sorry for you. I mean, he told me he's an alcoholic. I got problems. I got psychosocial disorders. But thank God I'm not an alcoholic. All I drink is beer, sport. And then he says, and I'm going to be your sponsor. That's how they used to do it. That circumvents the interviewing process you see these days. If I'd have interviewed him, I'd have never took him on. I'll tell you that right now. He didn't look like he had much. I knew what a sponsor was. I played softball for Larry's Oasis in the Tavern League. Larry paid for everything. That's what a sponsor does. Right? Larry bought the shirts. Larry paid our league fees. Larry paid our transportation fees. But most importantly, Larry brought the beer. So when Barney said, I'll be your sponsor, he took possession of me, lock, stock, and Budweiser. I had no idea I misjudged that one. And I kept wondering when the beer was going to show up. Now, for the next 5 years, I went to those meetings and drank every day. I could not drink. I couldn't do it. Old Big Book Bob Charles had started speaking. He was from the Joliet Hilltop group. I hated his guts. All he talked about, the big book, the big book, the big book, the big book. Why don't you eat your book, Bob? Bob didn't seem to care about my opinion. Bob hit me in the head with his big book one time. I had to drink when I saw Bob. Bob made me thirsty. I know you got somebody like that in your group right now. When they start talking, you get thirsty. I know. I got thirsty every time Bob showed up. My sponsor would say, keep coming back, dummy. Yes, sir. And you know what? From November 3rd, 1972 to November 7th, 1977, that's exactly what I did. And you know what? I got met with keep coming back. They even let me, they let me make the coffee one time. And I didn't like being given a job with no pay. So I made the worst coffee. I must have put 1/4 pound of coffee in that thing. One of them big old bun machines, right? I mean, it made my teeth itch and I didn't have teeth. You know what they did? They went like this. Oh, that sure is some good Navy coffee there, kid. Lose the kid. I'm not your kid. I wouldn't say that. I'd think it. I had problems. They would invite me to go on trips with them to meetings. And I'd been drinking the night before. You know what? They never said I had to stop drinking. Thank God they didn't tell me I had to stop drinking because I couldn't do it. I didn't have the will. And I also didn't have the understanding of another alcoholic saying to me what I felt in them about the effect produced by alcohol. I got to tell you, I'd go to meetings almost every day. We'd travel to all kinds of farm towns for meetings. And I'd go, and as soon as I got back, I'd go right back to Larry's Oasis. I would tell them, I'd never once said I'm an alcoholic. 5 years I went to meetings. I would say things like, well, I'm here because Barney wants me here. I'm here to clean up. He thinks I'm his slave. I would not say I'm an alcoholic. Somehow I knew once I said that, I had given up my right to drink. Somehow I knew that. So I never said those words. I'm Wayne. I'm here. I'm doing cleanup. I'm going to make coffee. They let me pass the basket once, but it came back a little light. I paid it back. November 7th, 1977, my sponsor said to me, dummy. I said, yes, sir. He said, you think you can go tonight without a drink? Just tonight. Can you go tonight? I said, I can't stay sober the rest of my life. He said, okay, we're going to try this again. Do you think you can go tonight without a drink? Barney, I can't do that. I can't go that long without a drink. I was talking about the rest of my life. I couldn't hear him say, and then I got it, and I blustered him. I said, look, Barney, I will give you my word I won't drink tonight. Well, we both knew my word wasn't any good, but he held me to it anyway. He said, I'll take that. And I'll see you here early tomorrow. You're going to help me set up for the noon meeting. And I said, I'll be here, old man. I got your number. I'll be here. I won't drink. About midnight, I realized it was a new day. And I'm thinking, well, I did give Barney my word I wouldn't drink tonight, but tonight's now tomorrow. I mean, I started, you know what I'm talking about, that mental gymnastics that we go through trying to decide whether to drink or not. And then I realized that old fool wouldn't get old. So I didn't drink till 7. I walked up to the Belgian village in Moline and stole a 6-pack of warm Budweiser. And I arrived at the Moline group, my home group, the Moline group, about 9:15 that morning, 9:30. And I want to tell you, I know pitiful and comprehensible demoralization. I sat down on the front steps of my home AA group, started drinking warm Budweiser. I don't think it gets any more pitiful than that. And I sat there and drank 3 cans of warm Budweiser, and then about 10 o'clock for the noon meeting, you know how they are, shows up early, walks up on me like he owns the place. You know how they are. I got 3 empty cans of beer on the ground, 3 in my lap, and I have every intention of drinking them. Barney looks at me, and instead of looking at the beer, he did something more desperate than that. He looked me right in the eye, causing me to look at the beer. You know, it didn't bother me till I saw him. I don't know what it was about that man. That was the one man. And everybody in this room, you've got somebody like that in your life somewhere. That one man. I would feel bad about my drinking when I would see him, because somehow I knew that he was sober and I was not, and I didn't know why. And instead of banging me out or busting me or mocking me or calling me a loser or a slipper or any other derogatory term, Barney says to me, why don't you come in and help me set up for the meeting? And I looked at the beer I had left and I said, I'll be in a minute. That was the best I could do. And then he said, okay, and he went in. Now, I don't know what came over me. The universe turns in a funny way. Bill Wilson talks about spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things. Maybe it was my turn for the universe to spin. I don't know. But I hid the other 3 cans of beer in the bush, and I went in to help Barney set up for the meeting. It's an amazing thing. I got done setting up for the meeting, and then I sat down in the arounder table. Now, at the front of the group, they had the newcomer coffee bar. At the back of the room, they had the arounder table. They called it the AA shoebox. It's where they made all of the runners and slippers and sneakers and AA loafers sit. They didn't want us influencing the new people. And I'm sitting back here at the slipper table, and old Barney's up at the coffee bar with newcomer Tom. Tom's asked Barney to sponsor. Barney didn't tell him he'd be a sponsor. Tom asked him if he'd sponsor him, which I thought was hokey. Tom's got 14 days. He has to announce it at every meeting, then he waits for the clap. I'm Tom. I'm sober 9 days. Everybody claps. Die, Tom, die! Because Barney, he's got Barney's attention now, and I don't have as much of Barney's attention as I used to have. I want my sponsor back! I voiced my resentment when Tom had 4 days, and Barney said, pray for him, and I did, and he didn't die. When Tom had 9 days, I told Barney, your God don't work. He said, why not? I said, I'm praying for Tom, and it ain't working. He said, what are you praying for? I said, I'm praying for him to die. And Barney said, well, maybe you're praying a little high. So I prayed for him to drink. I hated Tom. I wanted him dead. I wanted Barney back. And Barney's up talking to Tom. Tom didn't help set up for the meeting. I did. Tom's reading the big book. We should have Bill and Bob bobbleheads. Tom admitted he's an alcoholic. I'm Tom, I'm an alcoholic. I'm not going to say I'm an alcoholic just to get a clap. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's just... And then all of a sudden the front door flew open. I'm sitting at the arounder table. Barney's occupied with Tom. And the door flies open and this guy flies through. Now bear in mind, I'm not drunk. I've only had 3 beers. And I haven't been drunk for a few days. I've been drinking, but not drunk. I'm having what the book calls a lucid interval. This guy comes flying through the door and lands flat on his face. And I saw Barney turn around and notice the guy. And I knew if Barney got to him, it was 2 against 1. I'm screwed. I leapt out of that rounder table, and I went and got the guy off the floor myself. I pulled him up. Barney had just started to move when I got him. I pulled him up off the floor, and I said, hi. And I did what Barney did. Hi, 'cause I didn't know what else to do. I said, hi. He can't smell my breath because he's drunk. I said, hi. I'm Wayne B. I'm trying to remember what Barney said. I'm Wayne B. I'm an alcoholic. Now I'm in. Damn it, I joined. So I thought, what the hell? And I'm going to be your sponsor. He goes like this. What's the sponsor? I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I'm thinking, I didn't ask Barney those questions. I said, shut up. That's what Barney said to me, so I said it to Jim. We'll call him Jim. That's his name. Shut up. And about the same time, I see movement at the newcomer table, and it's Barney moving to poach Jimmy. I can tell. He's on his way. He's going to take him. So I moved Jimmy because I own him now. He's mine. I'm his sponsor. Barney's had me for 5 years. I know how to do this. I'll just take hostage with him, have him wash my trailer every other day. I got it. Get behind me, Jimmy. Jimmy comes up. He don't know what's going on. He's drunk. Barney gets that far from my face. And he holds my life in his hands. And he knows it. You know what? He whispered something in my ear. But I'm so glad it wasn't this time in AA. Because you know what he might have... Could you imagine what we might say to him? He might say to me, you can't sponsor anybody who's even sober a year. How many of you heard that crap? Or how about you can't sponsor anybody till you've worked all 12 steps. How many of you heard that crap? Aren't you glad nobody told Bill Wilson that? Bill Wilson took his last drink on December 11th, 1934. It was suggested to him, if he's going to stay sober since everything else failed, he better start finding some other drunks to work with. And from December 11th, 1934 to June 9th of 1935, Bill worked with many, 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 many people, and none of them stayed sober except one. Bill Wilson. Could you imagine what we'd say to Bill today? Bill, it ain't working, babe. Nobody's staying sober. Why don't you write that book so you can read it and work it? Bill, hurry up and write those steps so we can try them out. Those people will stay sober if you hurry up and write those steps. Bill, that guy that hung himself in your house, that ain't what we mean by hang in there, Bill. Get a grip. He whispered in my ear, dummy, don't, dummy. He whispered it, dummy. And I was afraid Jimmy heard him. And I don't want my sponsor hearing me talk to you like that. Now, I don't know if your thinking takes that type of possession instant, but mine does. Instead, Barney whispers in my ear, dummy. I said, what? He says, do you mind if I co-sponsor him? I said, what? No, you can't. He's mine. You didn't co-sponsor me. That's not what I said. That's what I thought. I said, okay. And then Barney says, laughingly, if you two clowns... Now, I want you to know this was 30 years and 11 months ago. Barney said, if you two clowns expect to stay sober, then you get busy grabbing newcomers right now. And you bring them to us, and we'll help you with them. And that's exactly... You know, me and Jimmy, by the time we had 90 days, we both sponsored 37 people. We was killing them. We didn't know what we were grabbing them by the throat. Get in here. Barney said grab them, so we're grabbing them by the throat. Come on. We even grabbed the Al-Anon by mistake. We'll never do that again. I learned about detachment before I got my 30-day chip. Me and Jimmy was on a mission. And I want you to know something. Last November 8th, Jimmy and I celebrated 30 years. And I don't know about a month from now. It's not here yet. But right now, me and Jimmy are still sober, and so are the majority of those people that we worked with, because we did something that some people don't think they should do now. We were carrying the message as best we could. We were working with other alcoholics. We had no idea that we were doing fundamental AA at the street level. One alcoholic talking to another. And it doesn't get any bigger than that. I didn't know that. I found that out through experience instead of learning through experience, I should say. In the meantime, had a lot of problems. Had issues that my sponsor didn't appear to be interested in. Like he says, get a job. Why? I can't get a job. I ain't got no teeth. He said, right, get a job. Then you can buy teeth. Why? I can get welfare teeth. They won't give you no more. They're done with you. Do you know that's why they gave us welfare cheese? Just to keep them teeth in, because they never fit. If you ever had welfare teeth back in the 60s and the 70s, 80s? Nah. Barney took me and Jimmy on field trips all the time. I just never got done doing field trips. We was on the AA short bus is what we were. We were out trying to save the world. If you're new and you want to save the world, by God, give it a shot. Try. You know what? Your life might be on the line. And your sponsor's got your back. Your home group's got your back. Here's what happens with me. When I sponsor somebody and I ask them to go grab themselves a newcomer, I have just committed myself to help them. Because you see, I know that they need a newcomer to save them. I know AA hasn't never grown beyond that yet. Of course, I am much more effective today because I have incorporated the 12 steps. Because I have had a number of spiritual awakenings. I do have a better ability to communicate with a newcomer other than put a gun to their head. I'm pretty good now. But you know what? From there to here took a lot of effort and a lot of things. And I don't want to dismiss any of them as saying that wasn't good for me because it got me where I was. And now here I am a few 24 hours later, and I want you to know something. I have the freedom in my life because I took all these steps and all these actions along the way. And things happened. And thank God my sponsor was willing. My sponsor was humble enough. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. My sponsor took me and Jimmy. I had this problem with my perception. Anybody else have a perception problem? Do you hear funny? Does anybody else hear funny? I hear funny. All of you have heard the term disease of perception. Clancy coined that phrase. Disease of perception. Here's how it looks in me. I hear funny. I think funny too. And if you tell me something, I repeat it back to you, you're probably going to go like this. What? That's not what I said. And then I'll repeat back to you, and you'll say, that's not what I said. And I said, yes, it is. I heard you. You go, no, that's not what I said. And then I hit you. Because that's the only tools I got in the box. I don't deal well with negotiation. Barney took me and Jimmy when we had about 3 minutes of sobriety. And I've got a big mouth. And I'm disrupting meetings. You know, you've seen it. You've seen the people that don't think it hurts anybody to play and be disruptive in meetings. I was one of the disruptor of meetings. And I had this hearing problem. And Barney took me and Jimmy to Chicago for the anniversary of the Mustard Seed Group. And it was in an old fire station, and the meeting was this long. And Saturday nights, Hannah and her hookers would come into the meeting and sit against the back wall. It was really great. Her girls weren't alcoholics, but they sure were interesting. But before Hannah would go to work, they all went to the Saturday night meeting. We were there for the celebration of the Mustard Seed anniversary. And there was a speaker doing somewhat like I'm doing, only more polished than I am for sure. Barney's in the front row with his old cronies, you know how they are. They had me and Jimmy in the back row. They didn't want to have to look at the disease. That's how I saw it. And the speaker's up here speaking, and I'm Jimmy's sponsor. I have 2 hours more than him. I'm going to help him understand what the guy's saying so he doesn't get hurt. Come on, you've seen people who editorialize the speaker to their babies to protect them. So I'm protecting Jimmy. This guy's speaking, and all of a sudden he said something I knew was a lie. And I said to Jim, as loud as I am right now, I don't know I'm yelling. I say, Jimmy, he's a liar. I may have to take you out of here. That isn't true. He couldn't have drank like that. His guts would fall out. And Barney turns around and gives me that look. Shut up and turn around, you old fool, is what I thought. And he turned around. Guy kept talking. I looked, Jimmy, he's a liar. He couldn't have done that. He'd be locked in a psych ward. I know, I've been there 17 times. Barney goes like this. One more time. The guy said something. I said, Jimmy, he couldn't have done that. He's such a liar. He'd be in prison the rest of his life. I know I did something like that myself. I guess Barney couldn't take it no more. He turned around and looked me right in the eye, and here's what I heard him say. I'm going to clean it up, though. Shut up, you goddamn loser. You ain't got a thing to say. We want to hear. And if we ever think you do, we'll come out to that car we found you in behind Harvey's restaurant. We'll tool your little horn and we'll invite you in to share. Until then, sit there, keep your big mouth shut, or leave. That's what I heard him say. Here's what he really said.
You're not well.
I hated his guts. Thanksgiving 1977. I got to tell you something. Yeah, I weigh 146 pounds. I've got long hair down to my butt. It's got crap in it from the street because I don't bathe. My mouth is infected. I'm not doing well. I'm 3 weeks sober. My sponsor says, come on, dummy, we're going to take you to a convention of Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, what's that? He said, there's going to be 1,200 sober alcoholics there. Tom will be there too, I'm just sure. And Barney didn't say to me, God, you stink. God, will you brush your mouth? He didn't say those derogatory things that I deservedly heard out on the street. Instead, he says to me, dummy. I said, yes, sir. He says, would you let me buy you some new clothes? Well, yeah, where are we going? JCPenney? How about some teeth while you're at it? So he took me to his favorite department store, the Salvation Army. This is Thanksgiving 1977. Disco is out at Studio 54, and they donated everything where it's in now at the Salvation Army. Rows and rows. And I don't know what they are. I'm retarded, for God's sake. I've never seen a disco nothing. We go in there and, we go over this one suit rack. He buys me my suit. It's a lime green. Double knit polyester leisure suit. Remember those? Yeah, we're getting the gift now anyway. You open it up, it had bright yellow lining with dark green tennis rackets. It was a promotional leisure suit. Then we went to the shirt department where I got to pick out the shirt. I made clear of that. And I picked out what I thought was a silk shirt because I thought that was kind of sexy on my bony chest. Yeah. My hair wasn't so sticky it would have flowed. I picked out this yellow brushed polyester disco shirt. Collars down to here. It only had 2 buttons from the manufacturer, one here and there. It had animals all around it. I thought it was happening, man. Then Barney made me wear a tie. He was one of those. So he got me a tie to go with it. Oh, it was happening. And then we went to the shoe department where the only 13.5-inch gunboats they had in supply were these black and brown box-toe Oxford platform disco shoes. Had a 2.5-inch sole with a 4-inch heel. We bought them, by God. I went in 6'3", came out 6'8". He took me home, let me take a bath in his tub. It took a week. Following Friday night, we cleaned me up. He took me to that convention, stood me at the front door, and made me a greeter. I had no idea what they were laughing at first. Because by then I'd become rather charmed with myself. I didn't have no teeth, but I don't care. I thought I might get a date. My sponsor said, you'll never have to worry about that sport. The speakers they had at that conference. I didn't know what a conference was. I'm 3 weeks sober. I've been around AA for 5 years, but I've been delusional the whole time. The speakers were the guy by the name of Chuck C. He had his wife Elsa with him. And it was the weekend that he reunited with his son Richard, flew from Europe to meet with him that weekend. I didn't know that. I did do that in retrospect. A guy by the name of Norm Alpey was there. A gal by the name of Dottie Shore. A guy by the name of Clancy I. And a guy by the name of Johnny H. And Tom Brady from Charlotte, North Carolina. I guess the spirit of the universe thought I needed a dose of AA. And by God, I'm standing at the front door, and old Chuck C., if you never heard his laugh, if you're on the receiving end of it, it's not good. He looked at me, he tried. He goes, Dee! 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 I'd have shot him dead if I'd have had a gun. I'd have committed AA blasphemy. Norm Alpey comes by, he opens my suit up and just starts busting out laughing, but I'm working a program. I'm not having a good time. I'm not laughing. It don't seem like you're laughing with me. I'm not laughing. Johnny H. comes by. He looks at me and he winks at my sponsor. I didn't know what was going on there. I ain't winking at no guy. He's winking at my sponsor. Johnny grabs me, puts me up against the wall, and pats me down. He says, I heard you like weapons. And I said, how would you like to keep your hands? And then he turns around, he's laughing the whole time. Clancy had his turn too. He didn't even try to hide it. He just thought it was the most hideous thing he ever... Dottie Shore kissed me on the forehead, and I swear before God I could feel her lips moving in laughter. Tom Brady comes up, grabs my hand, he gets all the way past me before he breaks out laughing. This is in between a couple of hundred people I've already greeted. And I turned to my sponsor and I say, Barney, God damn it, are they laughing at me? And I got alligator tears going down my face. And he looks at me and he says, well, you know, yeah. Yeah, they are. You're a sight to behold. And then he says, you know what, dummy? I said, what? He says, if you ever learn to laugh at yourself, you'll never be left unamused. And I want you to know something. Those guys got me. I didn't know it, but they got me. They got me in a way that only alcohol could get me. Do you understand? In only a way alcohol could get me, they got me. They got me down here where I got no defenses against it. They got me down here where I lacked the necessary power to stop it. They got me laughing at me. And I haven't been laughing at me for a long time. I'm laughing at me. And you know what? A few years later, I ended up coming out to California. And Clancy had a hand in saving my life as well. Because at 7 years sober, I was out of my flipping mind. Sober. I'd been sober too long. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm carrying guns in meetings again. I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. Don't get me wrong. Some of you guys are tough guys. I spotted you. You need to know where you are. I'm not tough. I sometimes look like it only because I'm sensitive. Barney bought me a one-way bus ticket on a Greyhound bus. One way. Did I mention that? 7 years sober. And he sent me out to Southern California. And I got out down at the Mission. And I'll never forget it. I'd only met him once. And I'd heard nothing but hateful things about him. And yet this guy who knew I was liking to have weapons sober, he did bring Ed M with him. Ed M was 6'11". He did come to the Mission to help out a little bit. That did calm me down just a little better than Prozac. I'd have rather had... No. And I got involved in the Pacific Group for that 6 months before I went back to Illinois. And I got to tell you something. I finally found alcoholics of my type. I didn't know that my type meant anything. And I ran into a group of men and women that were just as psycho as me. No disrespect meant. They were spun emotionally like I am. And after 6 months, I went back to Illinois. And you know what? I had a different look. I had a different perception of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a little more understanding of what my problem is. And you know something? When a person doesn't know what their problem is, they're probably a cannot. If they don't believe they can get well, they're probably a will not. And until I knew what my condition was, I could not have this way of life because I could not give myself up completely. And now that I believe I have a good dose of alcoholism and that there's a method for me to recover in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I came to believe in that, I can do it now. I'm no longer a will not. And I ran around AA for 5 years as a cannot and as a will not. And I'm not that any longer. It's powerful. And I've had a great, great ride in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've done a lot of things I'm not proud of in sobriety. And I'm not going to justify it by saying, but I'm human. Because we all know that, don't we? I've had a ride up and I've had a ride down. But at the end of the day, where I'm standing right now is a lot better than where I was sleeping 31 years ago. In that dumpster behind Larry's Oasis. I even got the privilege of becoming a police officer sober. That's impossible. It's impossible. At 9.5 years of sobriety. It's awful hard to become a cop when you've been psychiatrically institutionalized 17 times. You've been arrested 9 times for domestic violence. It's hard to become a cop. Unless you live in Iowa. That one's for you, Sharon. There they consider it a good experience. I don't have time to tell you that story, but it was impossible to become a cop. I told my sponsor impossible. He says, oh, so you're playing God again. He says, we've cleaned up your record. Your record's expunged. You're cleaned up. Go try. And if they tell you no, then you know for sure you weren't supposed to be. That there's something better for you you haven't seen yet because you're obsessed with that. Little did I know. I told the truth on my application, which I thought was a bad idea. Because it asked you if you've ever been arrested, and I didn't know which one to start with. And then it said, do you have any mental health issues? Where do you start? I told the truth. I want to tell you, my sponsor told me if I did not tell the truth, he would not sponsor me. He said, my love is unconditional, but my sponsorship is not. I can kill you with being unconditional in my accountability with you. He says, I love you no matter what you do, but I'll only be your sponsor if you do. And I told the truth on the application, knew I wasn't going to get the job. A few months later, I got called in for an initial interview. I was certain they found an outstanding warrant I didn't know about. My sponsor said, now go in, made me wear a stupid suit. I went in, had to do a polygraph test. I don't test well. I have anxiety. That old leg gets it going. Any of you guys got that leg thing going on? You know, by the way, they just came out with a new diagnosis for that.
Yeah.
They have a pill for it, too. Restless legs. I think they go to meetings. I think they go to meetings, and I think they see people doing bizarre things, and they create a pill for it. I think that's what... Restless leg syndrome. Jesus, God, they could have given me restless head syndrome. Where was I going with that? So I became a cop. Got called in for the interview, got called in for the polygraph test. They hooked me up to the machine. And the guy, the polygraph technician says to me, before we start, I want to ask you something. I've read my application was that thick with addendums. And he says, is this all the truth? I mean, come on, we're going to find out in a minute, but save me some time. Aren't you making a lot of this up? I said, nope. He said, did you leave anything out? Nope. An hour later, we finished my polygraph test. Most polygraph tests take about 15 minutes. Mine took an hour, and we finished. He says, you know you're not going to get the job. You know that. He says, even though you're truthful, you're not going to get the job. I said, probably not. I'm just doing what I'm told. Here's my sponsor humiliating me yet again. I got called back in for an interview with the Board of Supervisors. Apparently, they was willing to talk to me again. Then I got sent to the academy. Now, I want to tell you something. That doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure not too many people are aspiring to be a law enforcement officer. But I really wanted that gun. I used to polish my bullets all the time. I don't want to give anybody lead poisoning, you know what I mean? After I got my rookie year in, I remember I contacted Sheriff Bob Rice, Polk County Sheriff's Office, Des Moines, Iowa. Sheriff Bob Rice ran unopposed for 20 years. He was such a good sheriff. And I was really wondering why he gave me a chance. I just wondered why. And I wanted to ask him. So my sponsor said, yeah, go for it. So I did. I set an appointment with Sheriff Rice. And after I was done with my rookie year, I want to get my probation first. And I said, do you mind if I ask you something? What possessed you to give me a chance after you saw my application? He says, well, I got to tell you the truth. When your application came across my desk, all of it, I read through it. I didn't scan it. I read yours page by page. And at the end of that, I had to meet the human being attached to this application. And he says, furthermore, after I met you and we interviewed you and you tested, I thought, anybody with this degree of honesty deserves a chance. And I was going to lie on the application. So, make a long story short, did that for a few years. And stayed single for 25 years, dated a lot, gotten a lot of problems, created some, endured some. Did what most human beings do, I suppose. And I never thought that type of a thing was in my cards. And I guess what I did was I surrendered that idea. And lo and behold, I met someone over a year ago that, well, Tina, stand up. Tina. I mean, she knows my history. She's heard all the rumors. She had women follow her in the bathroom to straighten her out on me, and I'm glad they did. Because there's no secrets, nothing to hide. I'm just who I am. And Tina loves AA the way I do. And I guess maybe it's in the cards. If you're new and you doubt, I just want you to know that nobody in this room knows what the spirit of the universe that underlies the totality of things has in store for you. And if you don't make this way of life and completely give yourself up to it, you may miss that one thing that you don't think you can have. And maybe you don't get to have it because what you're going to get is so much better. But when you're a doubter like me, I didn't think that was true. And Tina and I travel all around the world. I'm a guy that never went very far in the real world because, quite frankly, that real world scared me. Becoming a cop was my dream. And I did that for 5 years. Moved to California, worked some in sundry jobs. Played smart with money. Did well in my own life. Tina's retired in her own right. I'm retired from regular work. A lot of people don't understand that, but what I have, I didn't put in no markets. I hid it. And I live very frugally so that me and Tina can do what we love to do. We just got back from London. Next year we're going on a tour through Australia and New Zealand, and then to Bali, Indonesia, and then to London, and then to Dundee, Scotland, and then we're going. Well, you get the idea. And I have a travel partner that takes me the way I am. I don't have to put on any airs. I don't have to pretend. And I don't want to. Isn't that something? And that isn't nothing material. All of it is inside. Achievement is great. And I motivate my sponsees to achieve as much as they can so that they can feel good about themselves. But apparently for me, the achievement was to become free of the bondage of self and to live life. Sponsor a lot of alcoholics. Watch their eyes come alive in the knowledge that they're just alcoholic. And that if they start out like I did, one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic in the simplicity of the language of the heart in Alcoholics Anonymous, and leave all that expert stuff to the experts. One alcoholic talking to another. I remember when Clancy said that when I was 3 weeks sober. I had no idea what that man was talking about. And when Norm Alpey talked about walking on the sunny side of the street, and he said, "What you do speak so loud I can't hear a word you're saying," occurred to me, my actions are the most valuable thing I have. And I've hung on to that little pearl. And I've tried to adjust myself accordingly through the years. So what I have to say to you newcomers to close is that if you would have told me this is what I would have 30 years ago, I would have said, nope, it's not big enough. It's not enough. And I'm here to tell you right now that here's what it is. I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm in this room tonight, and I don't want a thing anybody else has got. I don't mean that arrogantly. I don't mean that egotistically. I mean that I have finally become satisfied with myself, the way I am. And you know what happened? I relaxed. Thanks for letting me share.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.